3.
Greetings, you beautiful human. This is your friendly neighborhood podcast host, play-by-play man, and color analyst for life, all wrapped up into one lovable package, Glenn Klein, online. I have been starting days at summer camp that way, over the Camp PA, broadcast my own talk show since the late 1990s into current day. You can go hear my podcast at glennkleinonline.com. This shirt represents so much to me. So does this shirt that I'm wearing on purpose with a purpose. Even the hat that I've got on right now. First of all, I've got my hat on backwards, again on purpose. I just started wearing a hat on backwards. Then I started losing my hair. You can't beat genetics, folks. It's a genetics thing. And so I would wear the hat to cover up my bald spot. And then I got a hair transplant. And then it didn't work. It worked for a while. If you want to see what ends up happening to hair transplants, look at our president, as of this recording, Joseph R. Biden Jr. That's what happens. That's why his hair looks that way. Or Chuck Schumer, the current majority leader in the Senate. It don't work. It works for a while. And so I started wearing a hat backwards. Then I decided, it was so thin, it was like Joe Biden's pretty much, except not gray. I just shaved it. I just shaved it off. And then I had a horrible scar visible from where they take the hair transplant, the donor site. And then I got this cool thing. You can see, it looks like I got a full head of hair, doesn't it now? It's shaved. It's called SMP, scalp micropigmentation, from my boy Fatty, who's got, anyway, if you're interested and you want to look like you have a full head of hair, the reason I did it was because I wanted to cover up the scar, which is pretty well covered up at this point, so I wouldn't have to wear a hat. But during the course of me wearing a hat like this and growing the beard, a guy named Jared Fishman designed my current logo, and it looks like this. So I was like, that's a good look. And so I got this hat on and this t-shirt on for a reason, but I'm wearing a hat during these series, even though I don't have to, because of branding. Branding is really important. The name of things is really important. What you name your kids. The way you think about yourself is so critical, you guys. This shirt represents so much to me, and I'm going to tell you about it right now. This was the official t-shirt of a podcast that I did for 313 episodes, about 2.5 years, called Sex in the Pews. Celebrating healthy sexuality and exposing the ill effects of religion on said healthy sexuality. And I wanted to do a podcast. This was after I was fired from my award-winning talk show in Milwaukee, in the Milwaukee area in Racine. Moved back here, and I wanted to do a podcast on sex, primarily because it is a particular passion of mine, not just as like some normal horny dude, but because as an academic perspective. Remember, you can't beat genetics. And genetically, I was always interested in sex, not just to have it and to enjoy it, but to know about it, what made men and women tick, and now men and women and everything in between. And so the show was going to be called SOS, Speaking of Sex. And a guy named Owen Pratt came to the studio right here and helped me get it together. And we were having sushi across the street here from my place. And we were talking, we had done a couple of mock podcasts before we started. And Owen, much younger than I, he knows this content world. And he said, Glenn, nobody talks about sex and religion the way you do. He said, that's your niche. That's what you got to focus on. And I had been stressing to Owen the importance of focusing as I was coaching him. And so I said, I knew he was basically repeating my own words to me. And I knew he was right. And within a minute, we never said another word to each other. I said, I got the name. He said, what? I said, Sex in the Pews. And he was like, oh my God, that's a great name. Branding, naming, so important. Sex in the Pews, it says so much. The URL was available, unbelievable, sexinthepews.com. It was available. And so we started that process of celebrating sexuality and exposing what we had learned about the devastating effects, not just on sex, although I maintain if you are educated and knowledgeable about human sexuality, everything else follows from there. And so in the same way that we had with the Sunbar, our t-shirt to this day at the Sunbar is Get Baked, which is a nice double entendre. Again, just like with the KFL, we don't reinvent the wheel off of Got Milk, the dairy promotion. We have Got Splinters. We have Get Baked. A client of ours actually recommended that for the Sunbar. I could have one of those shirts, but I wanted the Sunbar logo up there. The Got Splinters with Sex in the Pews, because if you have sex in the pews, you're taking a chance of getting splinters. And so these shirts are all over the world. The back of the logo is right here. The back of the shirt that's the Sex in the Pews logo. And this shirt is represented a young woman that we met during the course of Sex in the Pews history named Kirsty Carell. Kirsty's boyfriend came and visited here with Kirsty, Derek Black, and wanted to get a new tattoo. And we went up to the tanning joint, the tattoo joint next to the Sunbar, the hot box, and he's like, I don't know what I want to get. And I jokingly said, why did you get the Sex in the Pews logo that on the shirts like this right there on your back, on your neck? He was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And I was joking. And so the tattoo artist, who takes his job very seriously, said, what does that mean to you? And Derek, without missing a beat, said, Sex in the Pews means freedom to be yourself, being free to be yourself. And I was like, wow. And the tattooed artist says, let's go. There's a blog at the Coach Glenn Klein site, the Coach's Corner at klein.coach, called The Story of a Tattoo. And there you'll see it. You'll see Kirsty, you'll see Derek, and it tells the whole story. It's beautiful. After Sex in the Pews started, we started talking about the gospel, the truth of the gospel a lot, because that's the foundational principle. You can read about it at klein.coach. You can see the affirmations that I came up with that portrays. You can hear our son Angel's song, We Are Love, and read the lyrics in 2 minutes. It's all the good news. It's all the mindfulness practice, frankly, you'll ever need, but you got to practice it. And it's what got me out of mental illness. Another story, another time. That's in my blogs as well. But when Sex in the Pews started, relatively quickly, we got an email from this young woman named Kirsty Carell in Ohio, who said that Sex in the Pews had saved her life from a life of sexual suppression because she was bisexual and more interested in women, but was told growing up that she would be disowned, her and her siblings, if any of them were gay. And so she literally put that aside. And then she heard the spiritual perspective on Sex in the Pews. And she realized it was not immoral to have attraction for the same sex. And it's not immoral. It's genetics. And that we're not in the Old Testament days. We're in the New Covenant, the new way. I talk a lot about this on the show, on Glenn Klein Online, and back in the day in the Pews. We shut down that show after 313 episodes. You can hear the last episode, and it explains exactly why. And that last episode was with Kirsty. But one of the first episodes with Kirsty, who eventually becomes one of our co-hosts, the last co-host of the show, she told us that she wouldn't want to be with a partner who didn't want to be with somebody else. And I have so felt that way my whole life. And I love watching people and experiencing the joys of life. It's why I love sports so much. It's why every time I see my Chicago Cubs, the replay of them winning the World Series in 2016, I usually get teary-eyed because it was so significant for so many people that were so happy. I tear up. I cry at happiness for some reason. I usually don't cry when I'm sad. Sometimes. But I almost always, if I'm getting teared up or crying, it's from just being overjoyed. I'm one of these people that the glass is not half full, it's overflowing. Now, you can choose that. If you want to know how, give me a buzz. 813-363-9545. So Kirsty tells us that she doesn't want to be with somebody who doesn't want to be with somebody else. Why? Because when she loves somebody, she wants to experience that and see them enjoying themselves. And if they're just having sex and time with her, she can't see it unless they videotape it. But it's different, isn't it, when you are an observer of somebody else's situation. And so at that time, we coined the term, when you are appreciating somebody enjoying sex or anything else or succeeding in life, we called it Kirsty Carelling. See, we're Kirsty Carelling in the pews there. And then we did this t-shirt on purpose, with a purpose. The reason it says, oh yes, is because that's what Kirsty would say all the time. Oh yes. Oh yes. And she wears glasses, and she's very pretty. Kirsty Corelling in the Pews. And then during the course of Sex in the Pews, we learned a new word. It's not even in the dictionary yet. It's called compersion. 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 And it literally means the opposite of jealousy. And I was like, that's it. That's been me my whole life. I thought I was weird. I thought I was a voyeur, just a voyeur. I thought, why am I so interested in people's lives and want to interview them and ask them questions? Because I'm experiencing compersion. It's the opposite of jealousy. It is experiencing happiness for somebody sexually, but just in general, compersion. If you Google it, it'll come up, but it's not in the dictionary yet. Let's get compersion in the dictionary. As we continue with a story of a t-shirt quilt. This is 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 and a half, 13 and a half episodes, because we have the first one. If you want to know why we're doing it, check out episode 1. So we went a little over time, but this thing and the whole concept of us being perfect and righteous spiritually is so part of this t-shirt and this experience. I really wanted to emphasize it. Go to Klein.coach, listen and read Angel Song, We Are Love, read the affirmations about our perfection, or call me, 813-363-9545. Love you.